Hello, good afternoon. In this video, hello, good afternoon. In this video, we will discuss the current affairs of 20 May 2021. Let's go, let's start. The first article regarding the six Indian sites of the uh, World Heritage importance are added to tentative list of the UNESCO Heritage List sites. That means six Indian sites are now under the care of the Archaeological Survey of India. They have been shortlisted by the UNESCO to be classified as World Heritage Sites. Generally, who selects this all this process means the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is having a significant importance. Let's see about them. These World Heritage Sites are generally important places of cultural and natural heritage. They will be described as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and they are described in the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, which is established in 1971. This UNESCO World Heritage Convention established in 1972. According to this convention, the UNESCO World Heritage Sites have been recognized every year on the basis of their cultural and natural heritage importance. Now present, there are 38 World Heritage Sites located in India, and India is the sixth largest in number of sites of the World Heritage Sites in the world. It is the sixth largest, and the name of the heritage sites will be listed by a separate committee under the UNESCO, that is the World Heritage Committee. Reasons include states and territories of India and different parts of the world. Uh, and That's all. Other than this, nothing is important in this perspective. And let's discuss the article. With this including of six sites, there are now a total number of 48 sites in the tentative list of the UNESCO. That means 48 sites in India are pending to be said to be as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. These six, the first one is the Ganga Ghats in Varanasi. Ganga Ghats in Varanasi. These are 84 ghats in Varanasi. They extend from Assi to Rajghat. These ghats are having a spiritual significance for Hindus, and but having spiritual significance for Hindus, it also offers space for other religious people to pray to. For example, Alamgir Mosque on the Panchaganga Ghat was built by the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. The Jaina Ghat has three temples belong to the Jainis, and Saranath, which is located 10 kilometers from the Varanasi, where the Buddha delivered his first sermon on Dharma, which is significant for the Buddhist people. That's why it promotes the secularism. And coming to the other side, that is the temples of Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu. Kanchipuram is one of the temple town of the India. It is also known as City of Thousand Temples. Kanchipuram is known as City of Thousand Temples. Kanchipuram is an important pilgrimage site for Hindus. Uh, the important temples here are Ekambareshwar temple. This temple is dedicated to Hindu god Shiva. It was built by Pallava dynasty in the 6th century. And Kanchi Kailashnath temple, it is also dedicated to the Shiva. It is the earliest example of Pallava architecture. And next, coming to the Kamakshi Amman temple, it is often associated with the Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya. He is the patron saint of the Kamakoti Mutt, saint of Kamakoti Mutt. Varadaraja Perumai temple. This temple dedicated to the Lord Vishnu. This Varadaraja Perumai temple is said to be the one of the 108 Divya Deshams, 108 Divya Deshams, which will be sacred for the Vaishnavite saint spread across the country. That means 108 Divya Deshams or 108 Divya temples have been which is sacred for the Vaishnavite shrines, has been located across India in various places. One of them was the Varadaraja Perumai temple. And coming to the other thing, that is the Trilokyanath temple. It is one of the few Jain temple that predominantly with the Dravidian style architecture. Only of the few temple with the Dravidian style of architecture. Generally, the Jain temples are built on the basis of the Nagara style of architecture. This Nagara style of architecture belongs to the northern India. But coming to the Dravidian style, there are only few temples that were built in the few Jain temples that built in the this Dravidian style of architecture. One of them is this Trilokyanath temple. Coming to the next thing, that is the Satpura Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. This Satpura Tiger Reserve is located in the south of the river Narmada. It is located south of the river Narmada. River Narmada ke south lo ee temple Tiger Reserve అనేది situate అయింది. It is a part of this Tiger Reserve is part of Deccan Biogeographic Zone of India. ఇది వచ్చేసి డక్కన్ బయోజియోగ్రాఫిక్ జోన్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియాలో ఒక పార్ట్ అన్నమాట. ఓ బయోజియోగ్రాఫిక్ జోన్ అంటే ఏంటంటే ఇది బయోలాజికల్గా జియోలాజికల్గా రెండు వైపులా ఎకలాజికల్గా చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ సైట్ని బయోజియోగ్రాఫికల్ జోన్స్ అంటారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ హిమాలయన్ జోన్స్, బ్రహ్మపుత్ర వ్యాలీ జోన్స్, ఇలా బయోజియోగ్రాఫిక్ జోన్స్. వన్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ ఈస్ ద వెస్టర్న్ ఘాట్ జోన్స్. ఆ టైప్లో Deccan Biogeographic Zone of India. Coming to the next thing, that is here the Satpura Tiger Reserve, which is located in Madhya Pradesh. This Satpura, the word Satpura means seven folds. Seven folds, Satpura means seven folds. This Satpura forms a watershed between the Narmada and the Tapati river. That means it separates the Narmada river and Tapati river. That's why these two rivers will not be joined together and form as a single river. There is no choice of joining. It acts as a Satpura acts as a dividing range for the Narmada and Tapti rivers, and it is triangular in shape. This Satpura is this reserve is triangular in shape. It is one of the oldest forest reserves in the India, and it is well established tradition of scientific management of the forests. It has been well established with the tradition of scientific management of the forests. It has been equipped. And let's see somewhat detail about it. Coming here, let's assume these are the Satpura ranges, which acts as a divide watershed between the, let's say it is a Tapti river. Just a minute. This is Tapti river and this is Narmada river. Between the Tapti river and Narmada river, there presents the watershed, which is the Satpura, acts as a divider for both the rivers not to join each other. That's why it acts as watershed between the Narmada and Tapti rivers. This is all about the concept. And coming to the next thing, that is the Maratha military structure. This also said to be identified as the UNESCO World Heritage Site. This Maratha military architecture generally consists of different types of forts. One of among them, the prominent forts are Shivneri Fort. It is the birthplace of Chhatrapati Shivaji, and Raigad Fort. It is the capital of fort built for the coronation of the Maratha king. Maratha king ఏమంటారు ప్రమాణ స్వీకారం టైప్లో చేసే దానికి కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ చేసిండే క్యాపిటల్ ఫోర్ అక్కడ చేస్తారనమాట. రాయ్గఢ్ మరాఠా కింగ్ అనే అతను ఈ రాయ్గఢ్ ఫోర్ట్లో ప్రమాణ స్వీకారం అనేది చేస్తారనమాట. తోర్నా, ఇట్ ఈస్ ద ఫస్ట్ ఫోర్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద మరాఠా ఎంపైర్. మరాఠా ఎంపైర్లో కట్టినటువంటి ఫస్ట్ ఫోర్ట్ ఈస్ తోర్నా ఫోర్ట్ అనమాట. ఇవి కాకుండా సాల్హర్, ముల్హర్ అండ్ పన్హలా, Pratapgarh, Lohagarh, Sindhudurg, and Padmadurg, and Vijaydurg, and Kolaba. These all the forts have been referred to the recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Uh, and coming to the other thing, that is the Hair Benkal. This Hair Benkal is generally a megalithic site situated in the Karnataka. This megalith means these sites are located to the megalithic Stone Age. Stone Age, Stone Age means the age in which the people are using the stones as their tools for their life sustaining activities. For example, they use it as tools for hunting, or these stone tools also used as for the purpose of the agriculture. All these things in such age is said to be the Stone Age. This Stone Age is divided into three ages: megalithic, chalcolithic, and microlithic age. The megalithic age, in which the size of the stone they used is large, and it is the primitive type of lithic stone age, in which the stones are not sharp, and they are more weight. That means these stones are primitive in structure. One of them, it is a Hair Benkal. It is the one of the sites of the megalithic age, and largest prehistoric meta. It is one of the largest prehistoric megalithic settlements, uh, where some funerary monuments are still intact now. Also, there are different types of megalithic monuments at Hair Benkal, like dolmens, which is a three-sided chambers with or without portholes, and with large stone slabs, also called as capstones, which form their roofing caps. And buried and semi-buried dolmens also present here, which is called as cysts, and dolmonoid cysts also present sometime, which are found in circles. And last size is the Bedagat Lametagat, which is located in the Narmada Valley of the Madhya Pradesh. Bedagat and Lametagat, Bedagat and Lametagat sites. It is part of the Narmada Valley in the Jabalpur area. This Bedagat is often referred to as Grand Canyon of India. This is also sometimes referred to as Grand Canyon of India, Bedagat. And Doundar waterfalls or Dundur waterfalls at Badegat gives epic view of smoke coming out of rivers. It is one of significant waterfall at the Bedagat, and several dinosaur fossils have been also excavated in the Narmada Valley, particularly in this Bedagat and Lamegat area of the Jabalpur. This is also famous for various types of marbles, and the marbles of Badegat area have different shades, like white marble, gray marble, pink marble, and bluish gray marble, giving the additional beauty to the marble rocks. This is all about the recently proposed UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Coming to the other thing, that is the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India have given a consultation paper with respect to the on the roadmap to promote the given a consultation paper on roadmap to promote the broadband connectivity in India, and this is called as roadmap to promote broadband connectivity and enhanced broadband speed. As per the latest data provided by the Telecom Regulator of India, there is a wide gap between the wireless connections and broadband connections in India, that is fixed line broadband connections. There said to be 747 million wireless connections and only 47.7 million broadband connections. They are the fixed line broadband subscriptions, also called as FLB subscription. That way, it is trying to encourage the broadband connectivity by this consultation paper. However, this FLB offers benefits such as higher reliability, low latency, and higher speeds also. It makes suitable for accessing cloud-based enterprises applications, electronic communications, video streaming, online gaming, and online education, telehealth. As per the recent report given by the Ookla Speed Test in Global Index 2020 report, India ranked 129th among the 138 nations in terms of mobile broadband speed, and 75th among the 175 countries in the fixed line broadband connections. And what are the issues with the fixed line broadband connections means restricted access to the building complexes and societies only, restricted access for the certain area, and higher cost of installation and maintenance for this infrastructure, and poor demand due to its high cost. These are the issues associated with fixed line broadband. And what are the policy measures available to improve the these fixed broadband services, and what are the related concerns means the first measure is incentivize fixed line infrastructure creation, incentivizing them through the exemption of license fees for them, such that revenues earned from the fixed line broadband will increase. uh, what is the concern here means by you when you exempt the license fee, misuse of the licenses can be occur here, and duration of such exemption has to be also be done, and prompting proliferation of fixed line broadband by providing direct benefit to the consumers for usage of fixed line broadband services, and also promoting uh, consumers by providing direct benefits to the consumer itself for the usage of the fixed line broadband services. Here, the amount of DBT for each connection has to be given here, and maximum duration of the subsidy has to be mentioned. How to identify a particular segment of the subscribers have to be more concerned here. And the third incentive means granting access to the public places apart from the only buildings and complexes. Granting access to the public places also it will be encouraged. For example, at various government buildings and at various street furniture, it will be provided with reasonable cost. It will enhance the fixed line broadband connections. What are the issues here means there need to be a uniform, simple and effective process which can be used by states and local bodies for granting access to public places and street furniture. Need a uniform, simple and efficient process. And coming to the other issue, that is the government raises subsidy on the diammonium phosphate fertilizers by 140%. With this, the highest subsidy will allow fertilizer companies to sell DAP, that is the diammonium phosphate, at the rate of 1200 only per bag. Previously, it was 1900 per bag. Now it becomes 1200 by this 140% of subsidy increase. Rise in DAP prices was in the global market was due to sharp increase in the input material. For the production of this DAP, the input material such as phosphoric acid and ammonia has been used. For this sharp increase of these input materials, the global prices of the DAP has been raised suddenly. For this, the government has taken a subsidy scheme here, giving 140% of subsidy on this diammonium phosphate, reducing the rates of the fertilizers, thereby enabling the thereby reducing the farmers' expenditure on this. Government takes historic pro-farmer decision, hiking fertilizer subsidy. Subsidy on DAP is hiked by 140%, 1200 per bag instead of RS 500 subsidy. The subsidy per bag is given is 1200 per bag instead of previously decided 500. With additional now of the total 8,000 crores spent on the these fertilizer subsidies, now for this 14,775 crores will be spent on this diammonium phosphate subsidies. What are the reasons behind to increase the subsidy for this diammonium phosphate? Means coupled with the hike in diesel prices, input cost may increase for the farmers there, and it will increase the inflation also. For this purpose, it has been increased the subsidy. Issues, what are the issues involving here? Farmers use excessive DAP, leading to the deterioration of the soil health and increased fiscal deficit of the government expenditure. Government of India making available fertilizers, namely urea and 22 grades of phosphatic and potassic fertilizers, including diammonium phosphate to the farmers at subsidized prices through fertilizer manufacturer importers. Urea is being provided to the farmers at statutorily notified MRP rates, and for the phosphatic and potassic fertilizers, the government is implementing nutrient-based subsidy. Remember this thing, statutory notified MRP for urea, nutrient-based subsidy for phosphatic and potassic fertilizers. And coming to the next thing, world's largest iceberg in the Antarctica has been breaked off. This world's largest iceberg, which is named as iceberg A76, which measures 170 kilometers long and 25 kilometers wide. It has calved from the western side of the Ronne Ice Shelf in Antarctica. There is a area called Ronne Ice Shelf in Antarctica. From this western side of this ice shelf, this iceberg A76 has been breaked off. It is now floating on the Weddell Sea. What are the issues involving here is the Antarctic ice sheet has been warming faster than the rest of the planet, causing melting of the snow and ice covers, as well as retreat of the glaciers has been occurred due to this, especially around the Weddell Sea. Also, a recent report has been said that, published by the General Nature, said that Antarctica is headed for a climate tipping point by 2060 if emissions are not curbed. If the global emissions have not curbed, the Antarctica is going to be headed for the climate tipping by 2060. What is this climate tipping means? Climate tipping point means these tipping points are generally where a tiny change, a small micro change can lead to the total system completely into a new state. Some single change of a system can lead to the biggest change of the total entire state of that material is said to be the tipping point. Globally, there are 9 tipping points present with respect to the climate change. What are these? What are them means? Of these climate tipping points are Amazon rainforest. The one is the Amazon rainforest, and Arctic sea ice, Atlantic circulation, boreal forests, coral reefs, and Greenland ice sheet, permafrost, and West Antarctica ice sheet, and part of the East Antarctica. These are the 9 tipping points of the Earth's climate atmosphere. And reasons for the melting of the ice in Antarctica are the human-caused global warmings and the shifting of the wind patterns linked to the climate change. And what is the impact means? Antarctica contains a wholly of 90% of the planet's size and enough to raise the global all sea levels at a range of 200 feet. With this, the total half of the world will subside under the water. What are the actions taken to reduce the to address the Antarctic climate change means reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by deployment of energy efficiency and renewable energy systems at all Antarctic stations. Generally, at the Antarctic research stations, employment of these renewable energy systems and energy efficient systems will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And under environmental protocol of Antarctic Treaty, which is signed in 1959, India has set up 3 research stations till now in the Antarctica. That is the one is the Dakshina Gangotri, set up in 1983 to 84, and Maitri set up in 1988 and Bharati in 2015. These are the research stations of India located in the Antarctica, set up under the Antarctic Treaty of 1959. Antarctic Treaty parties should lead the example of global efforts in addressing the climate change. This will also address the climate issues and implementation of climate adoption strategies. They will be include establishing protection areas where less changes have been occurred, such as, for example, at the Ross Sea, biosecurity measures have been installed through expansion and improvement of CCA MRLS uh, ecosystem monitoring program. That is the KEMP. CCMA MRLS ecosystem monitoring program. This CCA MLR stands for Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. This will be established by the Southern Ocean Sentinel program. And coming to the other things, extension for the validity of registration certificates under the FCRA of 2010. FCRA stands for Foreign Contribution Regulation Act of 2010. Recently, the act has been passed in September 29, 2020, regulating the some of the foreign contributions regarding the FCRA Act. The deadline for this has been set up by somewhere around June 30. Now it is extended by September 30 of the 2021 due to COVID-19 situation. What is the major issue involved in this is the Home Ministry announced that existing FERA account holders should every account holder now open a FCRA account in the New Delhi main branch of the State Bank of India, by which NGOs has to be done their operations. And Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana. Under this, a new AIMS Institute has been started under the Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana for the advancement of COVID-19 care in the states. This PMSSY is a central sector scheme. That means wholly funded by the central government only. No state has want to be spent here. It has been announced in the year 2003 under the Vajpayee Prime Ministership, Atal Bihar Vajpayee Prime Ministership, to address the imbalances in the availability of tertiary care hospitals and improve the medical education in the country. It is implemented by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The two components under it is setup of new AIMS and upgradation of government medical colleges. These are the two components: setup of new AIMS college and the development of the existing government college, medical colleges. And Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority PFDRA has registered over 23% jump in the subscriber base with its two flagship pension schemes. By 42.7 million people now subscribed under these pension schemes. The PFRDA, established in 2003 through a union government resolution to promote, develop and regulate the pension sector in India. It has two flagship pension schemes, that is the National Pension Scheme and Atal Pension Yojana. These are the two schemes under it. And the final one is the Atal Innovation Mission Innovation Center. Atal Innovation Mission has been partnered with the Niti Aayog along with Innovation Center of Denmark, ICDK, concluded their global finals for the next generation of Water Action and Water Innovation Challenge. NGWA Water Innovation Challenge simply. NGWA Water Innovation Challenge. They have proposed this. Statement has been concluded recently. It invited innovative ideas and challenges in the areas of digital water management solution. That means by using the artificial intelligence management of water resources, solutions for monitoring and prevention of leakage of the water in the city water supply leakages, and wastewater management across rural belt as well as urban settlements, rainwater harvestment in both rural and urban settlements, safe and sustained drinking water management with this technological innovation. This is all about today's current affairs. Thank you.